If you're considering redesigning your website, stop. You might be about to spend a lot of time and money on a website that actually doesn't generate any more leads than your current one. And not because it won't look better, actually quite the opposite, because it will be designed to look good rather than designed to convert traffic into leads. Now, we designed this website to convert, and it does. In fact, it just won Standout B2C Website of the Year at the UK Digital Excellence Awards. And it won because it's really good at generating leads. Over 11,000 highly qualified leads per year. But the key to this website's success isn't anything to do with what most website design agencies and creative agencies will talk about. It's not branding, colors, mood boards. It's 5 things that happened before anybody drew a mock-up. Now, none of these 5 things are secrets, and none of them need our involvement. These are things that you and your team should be doing with whichever agency you're having work on your redesign. But most don't, which is why most websites look better but convert the same. So today I'll walk you through all 5, showing you some before and afters with different businesses. And we'll finish on the award winner itself, so you can see how all of these principles apply and stack up together. So whether you're briefing an agency or doing this in-house, you can treat this as your checklist to building a high converting website. And by the way, one of the changes we made on this site was actually making it harder to become a lead. And that's one of the changes that made the biggest difference. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, task 1 is to know who you're building for. Most marketers jump straight into let's build a website, and they start going through colors and font choices and mood boards. Unfortunately, that's the wrong starting point. What we need to do is answer 2 questions. Who are we designing for, and what do they need to see, read, and feel to take the next step? So let me give an example of this. This is Value Capital Funding, and they provide debt relief for small and medium-sized business owners in the US. When they came to us, this was their website. They were relying heavily on paid ads. There's a lot about this website that you'd say is pretty good. It has the trust aspect, it's got nice clear calls to action, it's got a phone number in the header, it tells you exactly what they do. We've got all the design stuff you're supposed to have. We've got pictures of people, we've got a why choose us section, and we have a low commitment call to action, get a free estimate. So what's wrong? Well, before we started doing anything with the website, we ran what's called a branding and positioning accelerator. One of the components of this is really getting to understand Value Capital Funding's target customers, and this involves actually talking to them. And when we spoke to their customers, we realized why this website was underperforming. Technically, it's saying all the right things and explaining what this business does. This customer group actually had an emotional blocker that was preventing them from moving forward. See, they were often embarrassed, ashamed, and actually in slight denial about their situation. Their businesses were struggling with debt repayments, and they personally were struggling with the stress of managing this. They didn't want a partner in business debt relief and financial solutions, and they weren't thinking about financial freedom. They just wanted someone who understood where they were at to get rid of this stress and pain. And we actually broke this customer audience into 3 different segments, and look at how emotionally charged their pain points are. Angela is fearing her personal life and her business will collapse. Mike is looking to free up cash flow and save the business. So when we started planning the new website, we knew we needed to use language that would meet them where they are. Debt relief for businesses and genuine peace of mind. Is MCA debt keeping you up at night? You are not alone. Pop in a few details and see how we can help lighten the load. So without understanding this audience's drivers, we would have produced just another website that's talking about the types of debts and the process. These customers would have seen that, understood it logically, but continued not to do anything. So building a website around these principles and pushing it to the right audience increased their website conversions 640%. They went from around 53 leads per month to 393 leads per month. And a lot of this was taking the time to run this process to understand the core business and their personas first. Now, we put this into something called the Brand Accelerator, but you can also run these same processes yourself. Just go onto the Brand Accelerator page, have a look at what's included, and make sure that these elements are all being taken care of as part of your website development. So the research tells you who you're building for. This next example tells you what to do with that information. In this case, the business's website wasn't super bad, it just could have belonged to almost anyone in their industry. So this is Elite Renewables. Elite Renewables installs heat pumps, solar panels, batteries, and actually Elite has carried out thousands of projects across London and the southeast of the UK and is one of the most respected names in the industry. Now, their old website had some of the right ingredients. It had this nice video here, it had individual pages for each of their services, it had get a quote button in the header, it had a phone number so you could give them a ring. But it had the same problem that most websites have. It was generic. Sections like this could have applied to any business in the industry. And actually, here's something that you can do to test this on your website. If you swap out your business's logo at the top of any of the key pages on your website for a competitor, would that page still work? Things like mission statements and core values, whilst the business might think these are completely unique, actually a lot of companies would say this stuff about themselves. The process is fairly generic, and unfortunately that means it doesn't really convince anyone. So how do you fail this test and make a page that is genuinely really good at convincing customers that they need to buy from you and only you? Well, you've got to figure out what makes your business truly different, and different in a way that actually matters to customers. Now, in Elite's case, this was proof. They had thousands of case studies, real projects installed by their fantastic team. So we made that the core of the new website. We put this video up here showing real examples of real projects. We've got pictures from Elite projects here. We've got more pictures of big projects. We've got embedded Google reviews, and then we pack the website with video case studies and written case studies to demonstrate that Elite has done this before. Now, further, we actually identified that Elite had two different target customers. There were residential customers, people who wanted to install heat pumps and solar panels and batteries in their houses, and commercial customers who wanted to install this technology in their business premises. If you're trying to appeal to both of those audiences on the same page, that's really difficult. So instead, we built this mega menu section which splits up these two audiences, which gives each of these audiences a much more tailored experience through the website. Every page in the Homes section uses Homes case studies and explains how the technology works in the home. Every page in the business section explains exactly those same technologies, but how it applies to businesses, because the decision makers in each of these situations have different decision criteria. Now, yes, this new website looks better too, but plenty of beautiful websites are generic and fail the logo swap test. In the year since launching this website, inquiries through the website have tripled. The sales team has grown from 1 to 5, and they still can't keep on top of the lead volume that's coming in. So here's how this applies to you. Before you start doing any design or thinking about what your website includes, figure out what is genuinely different about your business. It might be proof past projects, it might be your internal manufacturing, it might be the expertise and profile of your leadership. Now, of course, you do want to make sure that this differentiation actually means something to the customer, which is why all that customer research from the Branding and Positioning Accelerator can be so useful. Now, if watching this has got you thinking about your website and whether it could be working a bit harder for you, then feel free to check out the Exposure Ninja website redevelopment service. There's a link in the description, or you can go to the URL on this page. Now, this page tells you about our philosophy for rebuilding websites. If it resonates and you'd like to talk to the team, then of course, feel free to get in touch. Now, everything so far has been about making it easier for the customer to trust you. So this next stage is going to seem a little bit contradictory, because on the award-winning website, we actually made it more difficult for a website visitor to become a lead. Not only more difficult, 8 steps more difficult. And it was one of the best things that we did. This is the website that generates 11,000 high-quality leads per year and wins the awards. Now, DSLD Mortgage is a US-based mortgage lender. There are different elements of the DSLD empire. There's DSLD Homes, which manufactures homes, and then the mortgage arm was traditionally fed from the home. So they would want to sell a home and they'd refer leads over to the mortgage arm. Now, when DSLD Mortgage came to us, their goal was to make DSLD Mortgage a success on a standalone basis. They wanted to generate their own leads. Their website was, in their own words, very poor. So rather than take what they already had and just fine tune it, we wanted to start with these 5 steps. So we went back to the beginning, did the Branding and Positioning Accelerator, and designed a website that would be very specifically tailored to the target customer and their user journey. Now, long story short, we did that. It worked really well, and the website had a 3.98% conversion rate, which is well above the sort of industry standard 2%. But that's where we hit a problem. When we launched the website, it was actually generating too many cold leads. The sales team at DSLD Mortgage was completely flooded. And worse, some of these leads weren't really qualified. They either weren't really ready to take out a mortgage yet, or they weren't eligible because they'd overestimated their credit score. This meant that the sales team at DSLD Mortgage was spending their time pre-qualifying and working through these leads. They'd be chomping through a massive amount of unqualified stuff and missing the really high qualified leads because they just didn't have any differentiation. So what we did is we actually tightened the net. We actually added an 8-stage eligibility checker before somebody could become a lead. Let me show you. So when you go on the website now, you see this check your eligibility button. If you click this, you then go through a process. This form collects qualifying information about the prospect before they submit their details. That means when the lead comes in, it can get prioritized: high priority, medium priority, low priority, or gray priority. The sales team at DSLD Mortgage can work on the highest priority leads first. We also give each lead a customized thank you page according to how they are prioritized. The high priority leads get confident next step messages advising them to talk to a loan officer. The gray leads get resources to help them improve their credit score before reapplying. This keeps them in the funnel rather than losing them entirely. Remember this form because we're going to come back to it later. Now, of course, this reduced the conversion rate of the website from 3.98% to sitting around a long-term average of 3.01%. But importantly, it allows the DSLD Mortgage team to prioritize the leads most likely to become customers. Of course, a longer form isn't right for every business. It depends on your sales team's capacity, but every business should know the minimum information that they need in order to qualify a lead when it comes through. And by the way, if you'd like help with your website rebuild from a company that understands all this stuff and builds it into the process that we use every time, then you'll find a link to our website redevelopment service below, or just head over to exposureninja.com and then go to services and then go to website redevelopment. Now, the fourth principle is to give value before people inquire, because there was something that the form on the DSLD Mortgage website just couldn't fix. And that was that the majority of people coming to this website were researching. They weren't ready to become a lead at all. And this is particularly common in high consideration markets, things like finance, health, legal, B2B services, or really anything that has a high ticket purchase. A lot of people coming onto your website will still be learning and they won't be confident enough yet to become a lead and talk to your sales team. So if we can find a way of helping these people directly on the website, we have a good chance of building a relationship with them as they're going through this buyer journey. So when they are ready to become an active lead and a customer, they are thinking about us immediately. There are a few different ways that you can do this, and your choice is going to depend on your market and what your customer wants. We'll often build things like interactive tools. These might be calculators, quizzes, eligibility checkers, configurators, things that allow the customer to experiment, figure out what something's going to cost, figure out what their payments are going to be, and generally qualify themselves. Another category might be downloadable guides and books. This is particularly common in B2B. And maybe you have some proprietary data or information or a methodology that people would really like to read about and that will build a lot of trust and credibility with them. Another type can be data and reference resources, things like maps, rate pages, comparison tools. Now, done properly, these types of assets can do 3 jobs at once. They can drive SEO and AI traffic, they can generate leads, and they can build trust with your target customer who maybe isn't quite ready to become a customer yet. Now, when we did competitor research as part of the Branding and Positioning Accelerator for DSLD Mortgage, we identified that their competitors either didn't have these types of assets, or if they did, they always gated them behind an email capture. And from what we knew about the target customer, we realized that they were unlikely to fill in their details if they weren't sure whether or not they were eligible. That gap was the opportunity. So we built a bunch of tools for DSLD as part of their website. So here's one that allows you to check your eligibility for a particular type of mortgage based on your address. Here's a mortgage calculator that allows you to work out your mortgage rates for a particular type of loan based on your circumstances. Here's a downloadable guidebook that helps you understand this particular type of loan. And here's a rates page which gives visitors a chance to see real live mortgage rates. So the takeaway here is to work out what your ideal customer is researching and what they need in the weeks and months before they become a lead. If you can build the most useful version of that tool or that guide and build it into your website, visitors that use those tools or those downloads have already started trusting you. And that trust is what converts them into a lead when they're ready. All of this helped the DSLD Mortgage generate 11,000 leads, high quality leads at that, in its first year. So these tools did their job, but I'll be honest about something. The website I've been showing you here was not the website that first launched. The version of this website that won an award actually came later, and it came from watching what real visitors did. Stage 5 is to commit to keep testing and optimizing. A website launch should actually be thought of as the starting line, not the finishing line. So when you launch your website, you really want to do two things. You want to continually analyze how visitors are actually using your website, and you want to test improvements and optimizations based on those observations to see what actually moves the needle with performance. Because the truth is, high converting websites aren't necessarily built in one shot, they're built over time by continually refining and improving. So once we launched the DSLD Mortgage website, we ran Hotjar to see how people were using the page, what they were clicking on, what they weren't clicking on, and we then adjusted the layout based on this. The reality is that your website should never be finished. Set up heat map tracking, keep an eye on the analytics, and keep testing and improving. The data will tell you what to fix next. So that's the website. 5 things written into the brief before any mention of colors, fonts, mood boards, and before a single pixel is designed. But of course, the website was only half of what generated those 11,000 leads in the year. The other half was the traffic. And in this video, we run through the entire traffic generation strategy that we used for DSLD Mortgage to generate so many leads.